Keywords are dying. Retrieval is the new ranking. If you've spent the last decade optimizing content, stuffing metadata, chasing exact match phrases, building keyword clusters, I need you to stop for a moment and really hear what I'm about to tell you. The game has changed. Not incrementally, not iteratively. It has fundamentally, structurally changed, and most marketers are still playing the old one. I'm talking about the shift from keyword based search to AI powered retrieval. And if you don't understand the difference, your content strategy is quietly becoming obsolete right now, this very minute, while you're doing everything you were taught to do correctly. Today, we're going deep on that transition. We're going to talk about the death of the keyword era, the rise of semantic search and embedding based retrieval, how AI systems actually decide what content is authoritative and trustworthy, and most importantly, I'm going to give you a concrete action framework you can start using this week. This isn't theoretical, this isn't future casting. This is what's happening right now. Inside every major search engine, inside every AI assistant, inside the retrieval pipelines that power ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Google's AI overviews, all of it. So, buckle in. Let's start at the beginning. The keyword era versus the semantic era. Let's go back to 1998. Larry Page and Sergey Brin are at Stanford, and they're building a search engine around a revolutionary idea. Web pages that other people link to must be important. PageRank is born. But here's the thing, links were only half the equation. The other half was text matching. You typed best running shoes, and Google looked for pages that literally contained those words best, running, shoes in your title tags, your horns, your meta descriptions, your body copy, and so an entire industry was born. An industry built on the premise that you could game relevance by controlling language, by stuffing exact match phrases into your content, by building enormous keyword clusters and pillar pages and topic silos, all engineered to match the strings of characters people typed into a search bar. The keyword era turned content into a game of linguistic Tetris. Find the right combination of exact match phrases, fit them into the right containers, rank higher. And for a long time, it worked. I want to be clear, keyword based SEO wasn't just a hack. For the era it existed in, it was genuinely effective content engineering. The tools were limited, and smart SEOs built genuinely useful, genuinely well organized content. But there were always cracks in the foundation. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're a B2B SaaS company. Your product helps teams manage remote collaboration. In the old keyword world, you'd have separate pages for remote team management software, virtual collaboration tools, distributed team productivity app, work from home project management, because those are different keyword strings that different people type. You'd have 10, 20, sometimes 50 nearly identical pages, each targeting slight variations of the same concept, and they'd often compete against each other, a phenomenon SEOs called keyword cannibalization. Sound familiar? Most content libraries built between 2010 and 2022 look exactly like this. Bloated, redundant, engineered for machines, not for human understanding, and then everything changed. The semantic revolution, the shift didn't happen overnight. It happened in waves. Google's Hummingbird update in 2013 was the first major signal they started trying to understand the intent behind queries, not just the words. RankBrain in 2015 introduced machine learning. BERT in 2019 was a quantum leap. Suddenly, Google could understand language in context. Understanding that can you get medicine for someone at the pharmacy is a question about picking up prescriptions for another person, not a general pharmacy question. But the real earthquake, that was the transformer architecture and the large language model revolution. Because suddenly, we weren't just talking about better search, we were talking about AI systems that encode meaning itself. Here's what I mean. When a large language model processes the phrase remote team collaboration, it doesn't just see three words. It sees a constellation of concepts: distributed work, asynchronous communication, time zone coordination, digital tools, project visibility, trust building across distance. It understands that working from home software and virtual team tools and distributed workforce platform are all pointing at the same underlying concept. And that understanding is encoded mathematically in something called embeddings. Understanding embeddings without the math degree. Okay, I promise I'm not going to turn this into a machine learning lecture. But you need to understand embeddings at a conceptual level because they are the fundamental mechanism behind everything that's changed. Think of it this way. In the keyword era, a word was just a word. Dog was dog, puppy was puppy. Two different strings, two different entries in a lookup table. In the semantic era, every word, phrase, sentence, and document gets converted into a vector, a long list of numbers that represents its meaning in what's called a high dimensional semantic space. Words with similar meanings end up close together in this space. Dog and puppy are neighbors. King minus man plus woman famously gets you close to queen. That's not magic. That's the geometry of meaning. An embedding is a coordinate in meaning space. Content with similar embeddings gets retrieved together regardless of the exact words used. Now here's why this matters for content creators. When you publish a piece of content, AI retrieval systems don't just index your words. They generate an embedding of your content, a mathematical representation of what your content means. Then, when a user asks a question, the system generates an embedding of that question and finds the content with the closest semantic match. This is called vector similarity search, and it's at the heart of how every major AI assistant retrieves information today. The practical implications. Real examples. Let me give you some practical examples of what this means. Example 1. You run a financial planning firm. You've published a detailed guide titled How to Build an Emergency Fund. In the keyword era, that page might rank for emergency fund queries. But in the semantic era, that same content might also be retrieved when someone asks, "What should I do with my money if I lose my job?" Even though none of those words appear in your title. Why? Because the embedding of your content is semantically close to the embedding of that question. Both are about financial preparation for uncertainty. Example 2. A healthcare company publishes a blog post about managing chronic pain. Good content, medically accurate, clearly written. But they've written it at a high reading level using clinical terminology. Analgesic management protocols for persistent musculoskeletal conditions. When a patient searches for "how do I deal with back pain every day," the semantic gap between their natural language and the clinical language in the content is significant enough that retrieval systems may not surface it even though the underlying content is perfectly relevant. Example 3, and this one is about what not to do. A tech startup wants to rank for AI related queries. They publish 15 blog posts that all cover nearly identical ground, slightly different angles on what is artificial intelligence. In the embedding space, all 15 of those posts are clustered very close together. They're semantically redundant. And redundant content in the embedding space doesn't multiply your chances of retrieval, it actually dilutes your authority signal. You would have been better off publishing one definitive, comprehensive, deeply original piece. What this means for your content architecture. The shift to embeddings means three things for how you should think about your content architecture. First, coverage over repetition. You no longer need 20 pages targeting variations of the same concept. You need one genuinely excellent, genuinely comprehensive page that covers the concept deeply, from multiple angles, answering the full range of questions a person might have about it. Second, natural language over engineered language. Because AI systems embed meaning, not surface forms, writing naturally is no longer a ranking liability. In fact, diverse and natural phrasings of the same concept help your content match a wider range of query embeddings. Third, context depth signals expertise. When your content covers a topic with sufficient breadth and depth, when it addresses related concepts, edge cases, counter arguments, and nuance, its embedding is richer and more precise. and richer embeddings get retrieved more reliably. But here's the thing, embeddings are only half the picture because it's not enough for AI to retrieve your content. It also has to trust it. Trust is the new page rank. In the keyword era, authority was largely about links. The more reputable sites that linked to you, the more authority you had. PageRank was essentially a trust score propagated through the link graph. That's not gone, but it's been dramatically supplemented. Because AI retrieval systems need to answer a harder question than is this page popular? They need to answer, is this content genuinely reliable, accurate, and expert enough to stake my reputation on? Think about it from the AI's perspective. When ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity cites your content in an answer to a user, that AI system is implicitly vouching for you. It's saying, I trust this source enough to repeat its claims to millions of people. That's a much higher bar than this page ranked on page 1. AI systems don't just need to find relevant content, they need to find trustworthy content. Authority signals are your proof of trustworthiness. The EET framework and why it's even more important now. Google introduced the concept of EAT experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness as part of their search quality evaluator guidelines. And while this was originally a framework for human quality raters, it's essentially become the blueprint for what AI retrieval systems are trying to measure algorithmically. Let me break down what each element means in practice. Experience. Has the author actually done the thing they're writing about? This is why first person case studies, original data, and personal professional anecdotes are more valuable than ever. An article about managing a remote team written by someone who has actually managed a remote team for 5 years with specific examples, specific failures, specific lessons has a richer experience signal than a generic overview assembled from other articles. Expertise. Does the author have verifiable credentials or demonstrated knowledge? This is about bylines, author bios, linked profiles, publication history. AI systems can parse author attribution. A piece published by staff writer looks very different from a piece published by Dr. Sarah Chen, with a linked LinkedIn profile showing 15 years in oncology research and 10 published papers. Authoritativeness. Is this source recognized as authoritative by other authoritative sources? The link-based authority signal hasn't disappeared. It's been joined by citation networks, mentions in reputable publications, and something increasingly important, being the original source that other content references. Trustworthiness. Are the claims in the content verifiable? Are sources cited? Is the content transparent about its limitations, its date, its potential conflicts of interest? AI systems that are trained to be helpful and harmless are specifically calibrated to downweigh content that makes unverified or potentially harmful claims. Structured data and machine readable signals. There's one more layer here that most content marketers aren't thinking about: structured data. Schema markup isn't just for rich snippets anymore. When you implement schema or vocabulary article schema with author and date published fields, organization schema with contact information, FAQ schema with well formed questions and answers, how to schema with properly sequenced steps, you are providing machine readable authority signals that AI retrieval systems can parse directly. This is the meta layer of the trust signal conversation. Your content's meaning is encoded in its embedding. Your trustworthiness is encoded in your authority signals. And your structured data is the explicit machine readable declaration of what your content is and who's responsible for it. Alright, you understand the mechanics, you understand the trust signals. Now let's talk about what you actually do with all of this. The CARE framework for retrieval optimization. I want to give you something concrete to walk away with. I call this the CARE framework, 4 pillars of retrieval optimized content strategy: cover, anchor, reach, evidence. C. Cover the concept completely. The first principle: comprehensive coverage beats keyword density every single time. When you sit down to write a piece of content, your goal is no longer to hit a target keyword density. Your goal is to become the most complete, most useful, most thorough treatment of a concept that exists anywhere. What does this look like in practice? When you are researching a topic, look at the full range of questions people ask about it. Not just the head query, all the related questions, the follow up questions, the tangential questions. Answering them comprehensively in a single, well organized piece means your content's embedding captures the full semantic neighborhood of that topic. Practically speaking, aim for depth, not length. A 2 0 word piece that genuinely covers the core concept, the edge cases, the common mistakes, the frequently asked questions, and the practical how to, that's infinitely more valuable than a 4 0 word piece padded with filler. AI retrieval systems are increasingly good at detecting and downweighting thin content that only looks comprehensive. Real example: Cloudflare's documentation is a masterclass in this. Their explanations of networking concepts, DNS, SSL, TLS, DDoS mitigation are comprehensive, accurate, written by genuine experts, and cover the concept from fundamentals to advanced implementation. They consistently get cited by AI systems because there is simply no better source to point to. A. Anchor with authority signals. Every piece of content you publish should have verifiable author attribution. Not a generic brand byline, a real person with a real professional identity, ideally with a brief bio that establishes their specific expertise on this specific topic. Cite your sources. Not because it helps with keyword diversity, but because citations signal to AI systems that you're making claims you can back up. Original research and original data are even better. If you can publish a study, a survey, a proprietary dataset, something that only you have, then you become the primary source that everyone else cites. And being the primary source is the most powerful authority signal in the retrieval era. Date your content explicitly, update it regularly. Stale content, especially in rapidly evolving fields like AI, medicine, or finance, is a trust liability. AI systems that are calibrated to provide accurate, current information will downweight or caveat content that can't demonstrate recency. R. Reach across natural language variation. Remember the embedding principle. Natural language variation helps your content match a wider range of query embeddings. This doesn't mean keyword stuffing different phrasings. It means writing in a genuinely natural conversational register that naturally incorporates the way real people talk about this topic. Use the vocabulary your audience uses. If you're writing about personal finance for first generation college students, write the way they talk about money, not the way a financial planner talks about it. If you're writing about technical security for developers, write the way senior engineers actually discuss these problems in code reviews and postmortems. Practically, include a fact section at the bottom of key content pieces. Use the actual phrasing of the questions as they are commonly asked. This is one of the clearest signals to both AI retrieval systems and human readers that your content directly addresses real world questions. Perplexity AI has published some research about how their retrieval system works, and one consistent finding is that content written conversationally, as if answering a direct question, gets retrieved more reliably than content written as a formal encyclopedia entry covering the same ground. E. Evidence at every claim. The final pillar: make your claims verifiable. This is about structured data, inline citations, named sources, and data transparency. Implement schema markup. At minimum, use article or blog posting schema with proper author, date published, and date modified fields. Use FAQ schema for any FAQ sections. Use how-to schema for process-oriented content. These aren't SEO tricks, they're machine-readable declarations of what your content is. Be explicit about limitations. If your data is from a survey of 200 people, say so. If your recommendation applies specifically to B2B SaaS companies with over 50 employees, say so. AI systems that are trained to be calibrated and accurate actually reward content that is transparent about its scope and limitations, because overclaiming is a trust signal in the wrong direction. And here's a counterintuitive one: update your content publicly. When you update a piece, when new data comes in, when your recommendation changes, when the landscape shifts, note it. Add an updated February 2025 added section on X note. This demonstrates that your content is actively maintained, which is a strong recency signal. The death of keywords is a gift. I want to close with something that I think gets lost in all the anxiety around these changes. The death of keyword based ranking is genuinely an incredible opportunity for people who create genuinely good content. For years, SEO rewarded people who were good at the game of linguistic optimization. The best content didn't always win, the most optimized content did. Thin, keyword stuff pages built in content farms outranked genuinely useful expert guides because they'd cracked algorithmic code. That era is ending. AI retrieval systems, at their best, are trying to surface the most genuinely useful, most genuinely accurate, most genuinely expert content on any given topic. They are imperfectly, incrementally trying to replace the metric of did this page game the algorithm with does this content actually help people? If you're an actual expert in your field, if you have real experience, real knowledge, real data, real insight, the transition to semantic retrieval is working in your favor. The care framework I gave you today is not a set of new tricks to game a new algorithm. It's a set of principles for communicating genuine expertise in a format that AI systems can understand, retrieve, and trust. Keywords were the language of search engines. Meaning is the language of AI. Start speaking it. That's a wrap on today's episode. If this was useful, share it with one marketer you know who is still doing keyword first content strategy. They need to hear this. And if you want to go deeper, I have a full retrieval optimization guide linked in the show notes, written naturally with all the principles we talked about today. Until next time, keep building things worth finding.